So there's been a lot of talk about how the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing or not. We know in Japan, it's been lights out a lot of the times. You cannot even find the system, but that's due to other types of circumstances, as in Nintendo wanting to make sure that they supply the rest of the world with on-demand. They can walk in and get the system, especially because it's more competitive in those markets compared to Japan, where Nintendo pretty much dominates and rules with an iron fist. But how is the system doing here in the US? How is the system doing worldwide outside of the blockbuster sales in Japan? Well, it seems like if these numbers are to be true here, Paul Gale has a beat on it, and it's doing better than maybe Nintendo even anticipated based on their forecast of around 15 million units next year. So let's go ahead and get into what Mr. Paul Gale had to say and a bunch of other great Nintendo Switch 2 information that you're going to want to hear out. So let's go ahead and start out here. Paul Gale on Twitter. This was actually a bit ago. Nintendo Prime covered it recently, and I think Prime was probably checking to see closer to maybe some of his sources, or even follow up with Paul Gale to see how he feels about this. And it does seem like he got the go ahead. Everything's good. Prime made the video, so I wanted to get my thoughts on it because I did discuss it recently in a live stream. So video game sales update. As of August 25th, Nintendo Switch is at 153.6 million and Nintendo Switch 2 is at 8.6 million. Approximately 530,000 Nintendo Switch and 2.83 million Nintendo Switch 2 were sold between July 1st and August 25th. In the first week of November, Nintendo will officially update how many units both systems sold for the quarter of July 1st through September 30th, and where they are both at in total. As much as I would like the Nintendo Switch to sell 1.20 million this quarter and be at 154.30 million, dethroning Nintendo DS by 180,000 units, I think they'll come a little short. That being said, Nintendo Switch will definitely top DS by Halloween and be close to 156 million by December 31st. Regarding Nintendo Switch 2, I'm excited to see if Nintendo can pull off 10 million by September 30th. Yeah, that would be really difficult for them to pull off 10 million by September 30th, but the upcoming holiday is going to be huge for the Nintendo Switch 2. But if they're already at 8.6 million, which I do want to just make sure, if you guys are wondering, well, why is Paul Gale and his information, why is it trustable? Well, he was right, and one of the first to report the record-breaking 3 million plus sales very quickly for the Nintendo Switch 2 for the launch, so I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt here. But 8.6 million doesn't seem off base, especially if you add in what it's done in Japan, along with the sales here in the US, where they are going through stock pretty regularly overall. It's a bestseller on Amazon. You can kind of see that people are picking up the system, and honestly, there really just isn't anything else like it on the market when it comes to a hybrid console. Everything ready to go and play right then and there. Comes with the cables, controllers, dock, everything's right there in that small tiny box for a pretty good price. So there really isn't anything else when it comes to easy, affordable, for right now when it comes to the prices, pick up and play type of systems that you can play anywhere that you want. So I think that's one of the big reasons, along with, of course, the big games, Mario Kart World and the big titles that are coming out. But it's very much possible that Nintendo has put in another 400,000 units plus, upwards of 9 to 10 million, somewhere in that range, because he does say that the sales are as August 25th, and that is more than a month ago at this point. So they've probably crossed that 9 million mark and heading towards that 10 million. I think that Pokemon Legends ZA is going to be massive for the Nintendo Switch 2, which those sales are not quite counted yet. You have a lot of people pre-ordering it, which we can see on various different websites. The pre-orders are live and people are definitely picking that up. That is going to be one of the big system sellers this holiday for the Nintendo Switch 2, but those are just pre-orders. A lot of times those don't count yet until they're shipped out, until they're ready to go, and it counts as the unit sales. So I think all of that is going to tally up, and October is going to be a huge month, and that's before the two busiest and heaviest months of the year, which are November and December. People are going to be picking up Switch 2 along with Donkey Kong Bonanza, Mario Kart World, and Pokemon Legends Z8. I see all of those games having a big holiday season. Then, of course, the hardcore games layered underneath it with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Kirby Air Riders, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So I think it's going to do very well this holiday season, and I'm interested in seeing exactly how everything shapes out. So pretty much on schedule when it comes down to it. We'll see what Nintendo has for next year, probably an early 2026 Nintendo Direct, the spring Direct like they usually have, to show off some other games that they've got. Plus, they've got Fire Emblem, they've got Yoshi, they've got Mario Tennis, so they have more games even coming up after the holiday blitz here of all the games that we're getting back to back to back to back and all of that. But I will say this too, I didn't mention this game, but Mario Galaxy 1+2, do not sleep on those games being big titles for this year as well, even though that some people feel that they're a bit overpriced. Myself, I think it would have been great if it was like 50 or 60, but that's beside the point. It looks like it's doing pretty well. I think that it's going to do well physical as well. People really snapped up that Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. Now you get Super Mario Galaxy 2, one of the greatest games made of all time, along with Galaxy, another one of the greatest games made of all time, 2 97 rated Metacritic type games. We don't have big new 3D Mario here, so this is probably going to replace a lot of people's big new 3D Mario game if they've never played it, or even if they have, they just want to have it on cartridge or have it all right there on the Nintendo Switch 2 running at 4K. So I expect that to do really well and help push systems to this holiday. So what do you guys think about these potential sales when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2? You can let me know in the comment section below. But before we get into the next topic, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next topic here. Capcom, they are buckling down on the RPG elements when it comes to Monster Hunter Stories 3, and that is music to my ears because I love the fact that there's going to be great RPG elements, and I love RPG, so this is good to hear. So Ryozo Tsushimoto, the big man over there at Capcom with Monster Hunter, says that Monster Hunter Stories 3 was made to, quote, focus more on the RPG aspect. So that's definitely a good thing. Now, if you've played Monster Hunter Stories 1 or 2, it's a really interesting mix of like turn-based RPG like Pokemon. It's a mix of course, Monster Hunter, if you've played the Monster Hunter games, because you have a lot of familiar monsties and all of that. There's a nice little egg breeding type of system, which is kind of like Pokemon in some sense, but they switch things up a lot. But the big thing here is kind of like paper, rock, scissors, and you kind of pick one and then one beats the other. Your stats also matter as well. So they're really going to probably flesh that system out a bit more. There is a lot of stuff with that system in terms of what you can do to manipulate stats and all of that, but there's also a little bit of, I would say, simpleness to the system that people do like. Now, if they're actually adding in a bunch of cool, but I would say seamless mechanics to the formula, and based off the new gameplay that we got from Tokyo Game Show, it definitely seems like they're doing that. I think that this could easily be the best Monster Hunter Stories game to date. And from a visual perspective, this series has got a massive overhaul. This was a Nintendo 3DS game to start out with. That's where they started at. The Nintendo 3DS jumped up to the Switch 2 and PC, and now making the jump to Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC, of course. And it's looking phenomenal. Looks like it's running good on the Nintendo Switch 2 in portable mode as well, which is very important. And I think that it was a good showing when it comes to Tokyo Game Show. A lot of the big JRPG games coming to Switch 2 and coming to other platforms, or just big, I would say, Japanese games in general. Resident Evil Requiem, in addition to Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate and Monster Hunter Stories 3, all these games demoed and played very well. The developers came there ready to go, optimize games, looking great on the Nintendo Switch 2 in portable mode, not even in dock mode, because they knew exactly how a lot of Japanese gamers are going to be playing these type of games and exactly what they're looking for. So these developers were smart, man. They optimized and made sure that that portable mode was ready to go at Tokyo Game Show, because you can have it where it's great in docked, but if people don't see that portable mode and running good, they're going to have problems with that, especially with a game like Monster Hunter Stories 3, which is a lot like Pokemon, and people are probably going to be predominantly playing this on the Nintendo Switch 2, because that's where these games started out on when it comes to Nintendo platforms. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a great game, and it's coming out early 2026 as well, so I'm looking forward to that. One more little nugget on this one too is that this game takes place 200 years in the future, after the previous game. So even if you haven't played them, you should be good to jump into this one. But Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2 is available on all platforms at this point, and it runs great on Switch 2. If you have the Switch 1 games running on Switch 2, it does run really good. No patch necessary at all. So very excited for this. So what do you guys think about Capcom buckling down on the RPG elements and the showings for a lot of the big Switch 2 games coming out from Tokyo Game Show? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's talk about this next thing here, because I was accused of exaggerating my thoughts in a debate that I did a bit ago on the Nintendo Switch 2 sales and the system itself. There was someone else, Alan, that accused me of exaggerating in terms of the sales numbers or the out of stockness or the availability of the Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan. And as Tokyo Game Life has put up, another day of Switch 2 being sold out in Japan. This was on September 29th, 2025. So I am not exaggerating when I say that the Nintendo Switch 2 has been sold out in Japan. Yes, the numbers when it comes to the totals overall for the Switch 2 from week to week are not any type of like massively high 300, 400,000 units, but that's because once again, they're trying to get units out to places that have higher population and densities. So like the US, Europe, they don't want people to walk in and it's sold out because they have more competition in those areas overall. Whereas in Japan, people know, like, really, it's just the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2. The PlayStation 5 is a bit too pricey, had a little bit of a jump recently, but that's because there was a discount and then it went right back to selling pretty low numbers overall. So Nintendo has that on lock, so they're shipping a stable amount every week and they are meeting that demand. People are going in and buying it. They've had to apologize when it comes to the My Nintendo and the lottery system, and even in the stores there's lottery systems for a lot of the stores in Japan when it comes to the Switch 2. So that's kind of how Nintendo's handling it, to make sure that people here in the US and other places, when they walk in, they'll see the Nintendo Switch 2 stock. There's also some interesting differences between like the Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan pricing, in addition to like a Japan only Switch that is cheaper and stuff like that. So there are some logistic stuff when it comes to how Nintendo's handling that as well. And I think it's working out for them because the Switch 2 has easily been the best selling device when it comes to this year by far. Nothing's even came close, and it's outpacing the Nintendo Switch 1 pretty handily overall launch aligned. So I think that it's going pretty good when it comes down to it. So what do you guys think when it comes to what's going on in Japan right now with the Nintendo Switch 2? But I will say this, I think Nintendo's definitely going to have to pick up the shipments to Japan coming up here, because Mario Galaxy, that's going to be a big one. But right after that, Pokemon Legends ZA. How much of that bundle do they have? I know in Japan, people are buying that or pre-ordering like crazy. We've seen that on Amazon Japan, but they're going to have to ship over a lot more because that's going to be a high demand product. So Pokemon Legends ZA, Kirby Air Riders seemingly is going to do pretty good in Japan as well. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Age of Calamity did good. I definitely think this one's going to do good. Metroid Prime 4, not as big in Japan overall, but still you're going to have units for the holiday season as well. So I'd expect those numbers to get a drastic boost coming up here in October with Pokemon Legends ZA and Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. But what do you guys think about this when it comes to what's happening in Japan? You can let me know in the comment section below. And now we're going to move on to the final topic here, and that is Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. We've got some first look at the gameplay, 17 minutes TGS 2025, and it looks like they're running this on the Nintendo Switch 2 based off of what I'm seeing here. The button prompts are using a Switch 2 controller, the Y and all of that. Either way, I think this game is going to look and perform and play pretty good across the board. Well, we'll see about the Nintendo Switch 1 version of the game. But Square Enix, I think they're on point here with what they're doing. Now, there was some cut content that they did talk about. I'll put a post up here letting you guys know what's in and what's out, because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. But I do think that this is still a good remake to have. And whatever they added or whatever they cut, maybe there were certain reasons that they'll talk about more. But overall, I'm just excited to get it on a modern platform. This is a PS1 and a Nintendo 3DS game. I mean, I'm not going back to the PS1 or 3DS to play this game. And I remember when this game came out on 3DS, and I was like, should I get it? I don't really feel like spending $40 on it, just because I didn't have the money at that point. I didn't buy it at that time because I had other stuff that I was playing. So I'm looking forward to playing this. This will be essentially a brand new game for me, and I think it's going to be a brand new game for a lot of other people out there. I know Dragon Quest 7 did really good in Japan and people loved it on the PS1 and it did good on the 3DS, but it's a game that didn't do gangbusters at that point. Dragon Quest got way more popular with Dragon Quest 11 here in the West, and I think that Dragon Quest 7, like I said, was popular, but it's nowhere near as the popularity now. So there's going to be a lot of new Dragon Quest fans tuning in for this one, so I'm looking forward to checking it out, of course, and the gameplay looks fantastic here. One big change that I love, and one big thing that I think that they need to make sure that they do for every single Dragon Quest game going forward: no more first person. That's one thing that I hated about Dragon Quest. I don't like playing RPGs where like you're in the combat system. I don't care if it's turn-based and it's in first person. I don't like it with Earthbound. I don't like it with older Dragon Quest games, and I'm so glad that they took this and they made it third person. The characters are expressive. They look good. You have the dolls and all that. Like with this one where they scan them, make sure that you can see your characters. So I do love that about this game as well. So what do you guys think when it comes to Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined and everything else that we talked about here with the Switch 2 sales, Monster Hunter Stories 3, and more? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.